try to make this somehow cohesive, but it's just basically talking about the creative process and how we all have our own kind of one and finding that and how to cultivate authentic ideas and how to delve into that. So I guess the first thing is, um, like any kind of artist, any kind of art path that you go on, um, it's hard to make money. That's like, I think a lot of people could relate to that do this, and you guys, I'm sure, as well, in your own way. Um, and I'm actually curious to hear what your guys' thoughts on this as well. Like, I've got my own ones, but I know it. But um, um, yeah, I guess like figuring out ways also as things change quite rapidly in different industries, like the film, I guess you guys know that, or like games as well, like Cooper who worked in the game. Um, I also think about like illustration and that whole side of things as well, like the Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, kind of like cover illustrations, Warhammer stuff like that. Um, like those things are changing so quickly. How do you figure out a way to have your own vision in that, and something that might not be something that is done within just a year or two or even five, something that maybe you work your, a life kind of passion project that you might have, and to continue chipping away at that while at the same time finding the balance of like making money, and also being part of a whatever industry you end up being, whether it's like film or games or anything else like that. Um, I know personally for me, that's something I'm really trying to figure out right now. And I tend to lean towards the more independent kind of track, but it's super difficult. And yeah, I'm curious actually about your way of going about that. I mean, I have my approach at the moment is just thinking, if you invest time and you buy your time into a big thing that is really trying to figure out like something that means something to you, maybe it takes 10 years to do, but you'll have something at the end that even if it's not something that is a product, it's something that goes outside of all those things that we have to consider in that, I guess, like artistic journey or whatever you want to call it. Um, Yeah, like for example, Cooper. Like I know a dream of yours was to make the game like Billy, and
Yeah.
you did that. And is there like another thing now that you have in mind? Is there something like that you want to grow from that, or something else that's been there all the time? And like this kind of thing that you want to keep working towards, or like these dream projects, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've got so much I could say about this. I think to answer your question, I approached things probably in the opposite or in a different way than most people would tell you to do them. Most people would say leave your passion project for later when you have more experience to do it right. For me, I knew early on, especially with making my first movie, like when made my very first movie called Love Hate, I was just trying to make like a Seth Rogen, Judd Apatow movie. That was my dream at the time. I was like, I just want to make the best like Judd Apatow type movie, and I couldn't even imagine anything else. And then once I made that, you realize, oh, that's not your, like, it is a passion project, but there will be more passion projects. You will have like, okay, that got out of your system, and now you can kind of focus on other things. And then with Billy, I mean, that took me 12 years to do. That truly is a passion project, but it is the exact thing that I had always wanted to make. And I know a lot of people, other game devs would kind of look badly on me for taking so long to do that. And their advice would have been to make a bunch of smaller games to get the experience to do a better job of that. However, all those people that say that, they don't ever end up actually releasing a game. They do these small things that they're not passionate about, and they never actually see them through to the end. And so for me, the advantage was, I thought, if at least I have the love and the passion for the project, I know I will see it to the end, because I love it. Whereas if I'm just making some random thing I don't really care about, I don't know if I will get out of bed in the morning to make it. So my usual personal advice is to kind of not listen to those people and just be like, do your big thing. Like, I mean, within reason. I wouldn't try to make Star Wars as my first movie, but like, do something you actually like to do, because I personally think making movies and making video games is one of the hardest things you can do. Like, truly, it is so hard to complete one of them, let alone a good one. Just like it's just a game or a movie,
Mhm.
and you're gonna face so many obstacles. And if you don't have that love or passion for it from the beginning, you're probably not gonna finish it. Um, and yeah, I don't know. That'll be my spiel for now. I have more to say, but I'll
Yeah,
stop there for
yeah,
now.
yeah. Yeah, Clayton, how do you approach that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it kind of this is basically similar to my topic, right? So I do have a lot of stuff
Right,
to
yeah.
say, kind of dovetails. I mean, to be quite frank with you, and to add to what Cooper said, I had a number of passion projects when I was younger that I really was like, this is the thing, but you're so close to it. I think once you get through it, and you have to follow through and get through it to realize that I don't think there actually is a passion project. I think it's all part of the same
Right.
tapestry.
Yeah.
I think as time goes on, you realize that art, the creative inspiration, at least for myself, anyways, it really is the process. I fell out of love with the final product a long time ago. And it's funny because when that happened, I actually started getting more productive. I started getting more invested in what are the actual brush strokes, and then realizing, like, a script or a movie is just one brushstroke in the tapestry of whatever my art career is going to be. And even to the sense that if one day for some reason the train ended on making movies and I started just writing novels instead, that would all be part of the same thing. It's all the same. The acting, the directing, the or painting or playing music. To me, I feel like it's the same artistic expression.
I know people roll their eyes a lot at this, but I view the word storytelling. It's kind of pretentious, but I view
Yeah.
all that under the guise of storytelling. Whether you're
Right.
painting a picture, writing a script, you're telling a story of some sort that's personal to you, or you just think is cool. And I think it all kind of goes under
I
that
would agree.
umbrella.
I would agree, right? Because I mean, it's that. I mean, you're telling stories, and whether you're conscious of it or not as an artist, it's the exploration of self and what it means to exist. Not to sound highfalutin, but that's really why we tell stories. It's really why we talk about relationships
Yeah.
so much, because we just don't understand what the hell is going on, really. But to go back to something that's more practical, of an answer for you, Roderick, is it's so hard to make money. It's so hard to get momentum that in the film industry, at least, I looked at, okay, well, what are all the things that people don't always want to do?
Mm.
What are the things that people don't want to do? The things that people shy away from in order to get that film made, because that's actually where you need to go
Yeah.
in order to get control and be able to start to generate and get a handle on maybe having more consistency and generating an income. Because the places that people don't want to go, that's actually where it is. It's the what is that old adage, right? It's the thing that's blocking your way is the way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it is, right? So that's what you have to consistently remind yourself of. It's actually part of the creative process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, do you mind if I jump in again about a bit more?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, go for it.
I was going to just add to your kind of the start of your statement about the money thing as well. Um, I feel like I had a little bit of an advantage in a weird way in the time I was born, and I'm speaking out of line here and judging a generation or something, but I kind of felt like when I had decided, and I knew very early on that I was going to be an artist of some kind, I had already accepted the fact that I was going to make no money, and I was going to be the struggling artist thing was a thing for a reason. That was a common phrase. And when I was a kid, it was very common for the classic things of like your parents would not be approving of you becoming an artist because they knew you're going to have a tough life, you're not going to make money. Like, it was a very accepted thing that if you're going to choose art, you're going to have a tough life. But that was almost part of the romance of it. You're going to be a struggling artist who's doing their passion thing. So I already in my mind thought, oh, I'm going to be working these retail jobs or service jobs on the side all the time forever so that I can keep doing what I want to do on the side. Whereas I feel like a generation after me somehow had this thing where they thought that when they chose they want to be an artist, that meant that they were entitled to a career. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to get a career, I'm going to make $100,000 a year doing my art. And I'm like, I don't think so. That's not what I like. That's not what I would have assumed. And I think there's a lot of people now that have that assumption that are maybe feeling a little bit ripped off or something because they may have. I don't know. I might be speaking out of turn there, but I'm just thankful that I went into it thinking that I would make no money, and I think that's kind of served me well. Yeah,
I think what you said actually is right on point. I think it's not a symptom of the creative industry either. I mean, there's, the late great Gene Hackman, who just recently passed,
murdered by his dog, right?
murdered by his dog, right?
Really?
Oh
No. What
gosh,
was this?
horrible thing. No.
No way.
But there was I'm paraphrasing his response in an interview from decades ago, but they asked him, so did you get into acting because you wanted to be famous? Like, what was your goal when you started off as an actor? And he said, I just wanted to be able to be working. It was just to have a job. He didn't want to be famous, didn't want to be a movie star. It wasn't about becoming rich. He just wanted to be in process. I think it speaks to what you're talking about, Cooper, where it's just really people were getting into it because they loved to paint.
Yeah,
They didn't want to have the lifestyle of Picasso, or Salvador Dali, after, they got famous and, were so impactful. They just literally just wanted to paint,
yeah,
and now I feel like people probably don't want to paint anymore. I mean, and I can only speak from my own experiences and from my own vocation, but like there are so many actors now, they don't want to train or they're scared to train. And you've got all these actors who they're not actors, but I mean, who's going to play the roles once they're coming up? So now you've got all these non-actors acting, right? So it's very
yeah.
interesting.
Some of the one last thing I'll kind of add is whenever I've worked on projects, and going back to the money thing, I don't know. I always encourage people to, and this is going against what a lot of people will say, but working for free, I think, does have value to a certain point. I know people are very against, like, oh, don't get tricked by the exposure thing. Some of the people that I've worked with who work for free with me are the most accomplished people I know. Like I've like even like a composer on my game. He's worked on Assassin's Creed. The other composer is he's like a triple platinum. These guys are working for free, and they should be costing me so much money, but they were willing to do it because they just want to do it. They like to do it. Whereas I know a lot of students that are graduating and stuff. I'll interview them and they'll just demand, like they'll have such high demands, and I'm like, who, like, you haven't done anything, like what's going on here? And I think they just feel too entitled to a certain lifestyle that's not attached to the art or something. I don't know. I haven't fully figured it out. I've just been observing this over the years, and I just feel like the people that are more willing to just work for the sake of doing a cool project, those people tend to have personalities that make them excel later on in life, and they do get the money later on. And then the people that don't have that mindset sort of kind of struggle a bit more. I don't know. It's there's something there. I haven't fully figured it out yet, but I thought I would mention that.
Yeah, I find there's a bit of an interesting paradox, and like I notice it specifically in the like visual art side of things in games. So like look at lots of like different portfolios of concept artists or illustrators, and then more and more because of the internet, there's a sort of like homogenous kind of like look after a while. I'm sure with a lot of things like that on the internet, it's brought things together. The companies have gotten bigger, so they're becoming a bit more conscious of marketing and packaging things tightly. But then, so within that, you're going to have artists that are really, really good and really good at producing high quality output. but I think that the level of vision starts to go down, and because there's less risks, the usual kind of thing. But I always find it quite interesting that some of not only my favorite artists, but it's sort of like the artists that artists like, are often the ones that don't give a shit about that, and they're really good. Like one of the top guys in the concert art industry is a guy called Craig Mullins. He's like a legend in that. But like this guy, and it's not necessarily that it's one-to-one like this, but I always find it quite interesting. And he's not the only one. There's one or two other guys that are really looked up to and respected by other visual artists, and they're just good. They're just doing it because they just love what they're doing, like you guys were saying, and that's why they're good. They put no effort in their marketing. Not to say that's not a bad thing to do, but it's like they put so much attention on just what they're doing that inevitably what they're doing becomes sought after by other people because they're so focused on the craft and they're so in love with it that's just what they're doing all the time. Yes, Liam, have you worked on any kind of creative projects? I'm not sure actually if we've spoken about that.
On any what, sorry?
Any kind of like creative projects that you've worked on or anything like that?
No, not so much. No, I mean, I did like some modeling in high school back in Indonesia, and I did like a Hyundai commercial when I was a kid, but nothing. Yeah, actually a UBC commercial, but that was like a one-day thing. But I think that was like an internal like ad for like alumni or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, but nothing like not like a week-long thing or nothing.
Yeah,
but you're essentially in like marketing, you would say, right?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, for like software development.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're like a big fan of films, so I was wondering if actually have you noticed a shift in whatever genre is your favorite? I guess like you quite like horror, right? And thriller. Like, have you noticed like a change in the quality of films throughout time and different eras that could be a result of that, like creators having more vision or more focusing on production and that kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. I think like one of the most successful like business models recently is probably like Jason Blumhouse, like Blumhouse Pictures or Blumhouse Productions, because I think they just got the rights to the Saw franchise, because I know they did Saw 10 last year, the year before, and then they were going to go see another one like Saw 11, but they put that on hold. But yeah, I mean, from a business standpoint, I think Jason Blumhouse, I mean, they're doing something right? Like they're making money. I'm not a huge fan of majority of what he puts out. There's a couple, don't get me wrong, like The Conjuring, I know it's critically acclaimed, all that, but to me, everything kind of looks quite similar. Just sort of like bright and flashy and not like gritty and all that. I don't know. I'm more. I like that old 70s and 80s like aesthetic, like the Friday the 13th series, and even like cheap, more low budget stuff. I've always appreciated more. But I mean, I'm not 100% sure what else I can say to that. But just from Blumhouse, he's doing something right. Yeah. Like that's, you can't go wrong with that. And like his Halloween movies, I know that was a huge controversy with the last one that happened. I like those. I really did. I really liked it.
What was the controversy?
It was just a character becoming something like an entity of Michael Myers, or did he not? They kind of like made it a bit more existential in a way, not like a full throttle forward slasher movie. So that irked a lot of like Halloween fans, Clayton. I still liked it. I thought it was different, and I was like, wow, yeah, it was really good. In Australia, those the guy, the Racker guys, the guys who did Talk to Me, I forget their last name, their surname, like the something brothers.
Oh yeah.
And then they bring her back. I like that kind of aesthetic. It's like gritty, dark, like kind of gnarly. I think both those films were filmed in South Australia, and you don't see a lot of horror films coming out of South Australia, so that was kind of cool. Because I was looking it up, I was like, "Oh, where was it filmed?" And Yeah, I mean, I know they've only put out 2 movies so far, but I just love like the color palette of what they're just like dark and grimy, but still looks new and everything. But yeah, Blumhouse to me is a little bit too Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're still enjoyable. Like, I mean, Megan, I know is huge. The sequel does look kind of fun. I have to admit to that. Yeah, that's all I got from Matt.
Yeah. I did enjoy the Saw movies.
Yeah, me too. They're
all
Cult
10 of them.
classics. Well, I haven't seen all 10, but I've seen enough.
They're all good. Some better than the others, but just like, even the Friday the 13th and Jason movies, like, I know there are some bad ones in there, but I still appreciate it. Even if
I know they were using like hands to like show the like for the posters at one point. It would be like Saw 2 with like 2 fingers, but like they just run out of fingers now. That's for right. Like Saw 11.
Yeah, get the toes in.
Just stitch them on.